All right, guys. So recently, over like the last couple of months, Weiland's been performing, and if you've been a fan of Weiland, you'd know that Weiland doesn't do any shows, or he hadn't done shows for years. He did this like really old show back in like, I don't even know, like early 2018, maybe like late 2017 when he was like a teenager, and he just did no shows, right? But recently he's been playing shows, and the reception to his music hasn't really been the greatest, and let me explain. So the best example of this was at Summer Smash a couple of days ago when Weiland was at the 10th stage and he was one of the earlier sets. He was between Pretty Fun and Benji Bluebills, which, you know, Pretty Fun is like trying to think, like he's in like that Uzi inspired, Sofago adjacent, Che adjacent, Bear One Pass adjacent lane, and then he's underneath Benji Bluebills, who's like, I don't know, he's just making harder music. He got like all these TikTok songs out right now. I mean, just songs that are going crazy on TikTok. He makes like street and then there's Weiland, and you also gotta understand Weiland isn't performing like his pack runner era stuff. He's performing like his more indie type music, so it's not really like stuff rap fans would be into. So it's already not exactly like these like new underground fans taste, if that makes sense. But I guess these festivals and people who are booking him for shows are thinking, okay, at least like, hey, you know, Weiland's a legend, people will know that, so they'll support him, right? Well, not really. So at Summer Smash, Weiland got booed off stage. His set was right before Benji Bluebills. The crowd was seen chanting Benji, and there's some fans showing support, but for the most part, it was pretty bad. People were even throwing things. I'm gonna play like a short video for you guys, and yeah, it wasn't good. They have no idea what they're doing. Damn, SMH. Weiland better than everyone who performed. Wrong music for the vibe, can't blame them. And this is where what I kind of understand too, you know, it's really just not, this is not the type of music they were there to see, at least like the most of them, you know what I mean? The thing is though, I'm sure there were people in Chicago who just came for Weiland, if that makes sense. Like he does have a fan base like that, it just wasn't enough, if that makes sense. The other thing too is Weiland performed in London. He performed like underneath Che, and people were actually booing him there too. It was so sad. People hate on him. They don't get it. Wrong crowd. No way people are booing Weiland. He stormed off the stage because of it. It's because all he did was Vices, and people don't really have the time to appreciate pop music. Vices is like synth pop. It's not even pop. The thing is, I'm sure there were a lot of people in London who came to see Weiland and were really happy with it. It's just Che fans, you know, regular, like, imagine someone who discovered Osama-san like last year. They're like a teenager, like, oh, I'm gonna go see Osama, I'm gonna go see Che, I'm gonna go see Netspend, and then they hear like some like indie guy dressed the way Weiland's dressed, like, and they just don't know about him or his like prior music. They're just gonna be confused, you know what I mean? The other thing about Weiland too is his performance honestly sounded really bad. I'm not gonna lie, it sounded horrible. But apparently it wasn't his fault. On his story, I don't have the screenshot, but he posted something about like the sound check. It sounded great in the sound check, but when he actually performed, they f***ed up his sound. They actually messed up Ken Carson's sound too. I guess their sound wasn't the greatest this year. But I'm gonna read this fan's like little paragraph. Summer Smash, Weiland. He only performs 3 songs, Let You Go, The Girl's Not Mine, and The Man Who Lost the War, before being cut off by Lil Skies. Why would you cut this guy off? He was there to perform for 20 minutes and only got to do half. This isn't Weiland's fault. This is the same guy who made Vices, which is the greatest synth pop album of all time. Better than all the Weeknd's work. Okay, that's a bit of a glaze. And he gets treated like this. Most of the sound production was whack as well. Weiland's mic sounded crappy and the instruments were louder than him. But the performance was pretty good to hear in person. Hope this doesn't happen for future shows. Yeah, the sound was terrible, but I thought Weiland himself didn't sound so bad. Seems like they didn't do a sound check. Also, the crowd he got in between Pretty Fun, Twink, and Benji Bluebills, gangster music. Alright, bro. And I mean, like, the crowd chanting Benji was horrible. Like, and Benji Bluebills even responded. He said, that's f***ed up. Here's the thing. Some Weiland fans were also not happy with the performance just because he's not performing his earlier work. Cornballs boo Weiland at Summer Smash. I can't believe they booed him, LMAO. Someone asked, what do you perform, new or old? Because new Weiland and old Weiland is completely different. They said new, and they said, well, I would have booed too. I was hoping for that pack runner and yeah, I don't know. Summer Smash just really is like a rap festival. So it's not crazy that Weiland got booed. To be honest, I'm kind of surprised Weiland hasn't done like his own small show in like New York or something, or like LA. Like that would probably do well. He could sell like 200 tickets. The only thing is, if he's playing with a band, it's like expensive to travel with a band, so he'd probably make no money or even lose money. But at the same time, I don't know, he could like sell merch or something. I just feel like that's what he should have done. The real f*** up is that Weiland has never played live his entire career. So one, he's not he's not like an amazing performer. Like he's not there's nothing special about him. Fans aren't used to seeing him live, so that part of his career has kind of been dead. And he's just starting way too late, so it kind of makes sense why he's seeing these effects now. Other than that, it's just like a up situation, you know what I mean? Like, I guess he stormed off at the London show. I didn't even know that. I didn't see it on Twitter. And then here, you know, he got cut short, so just as bad. I will say though, like for Weiland, I checked out his last piece of work and it was all right, but it wasn't anything crazy. And I don't know, it's just like Weiland, when he originally took the hiatus and he dropped his self-titled album and then he dropped Vices, like he had hype, you know, he had hype. None of those songs really like blew up, but he still had hype. I just feel like all the long breaks, inactivity on social media kind of killed his momentum, because Weiland really had one of the craziest, strongest fan bases like ever, you know what I mean? And that was partially because of how influential he was. But I think in 2025, nobody cares anymore, if I'm being real. I just don't think fans understand or have that same respect for him. And at this point, he just has to drop better music, you know, because the music hasn't been hitting for most of his fan base for years. And at this point, they're just openly saying it. His subreddit used to be crazy active. Like I used to see like Weiland Wednesday fan page edits of him like every week for years when he was not doing anything, by the way. And now that's kind of all gone. And I feel like a lot of his diehard fans just glaze spices, or they kind of like bank on the nostalgic feeling of old Weiland. And old Weiland is really good, don't get me wrong, but Weiland is still young, and I don't know, just for his career in general, he's got to drop better music. You know what I mean? It really comes down to that. And then at the same time, like him being branded, like he separated himself from all this like underground rap stuff, but he's doing shows with these other underground rappers, because I don't think he would get booked for a regular festival. Or maybe he would, honestly. Maybe he would. Maybe he just wouldn't get as much money or whatever the reason might be, but it's honestly just bad for branding for him to be doing these shows, like that Che show, this show. You know, maybe he just wants the money, but it's just not a good look, because his music is so different from all of these artists. The only real connection he has to the scene is like Summers at this point. And I don't know, I also feel like Weiland has just has bad marketing. He posts like a fit pic or like a Polaroid once every 3 months, makes an announcement on his story, promises new music, doesn't drop. You know, like I feel like Weiland has built a lot of bad will among his fans. Another example of bad will is just like not shipping out merch. I think fans, it's like a known thing for Weiland fans, like, yo, don't buy the merch. He doesn't ship out. And they've had cool ideas in the past. They just never like ship the merch ever. I think he said something in the past where he said he posted a story where he said the last people who are doing my merch were like evil or something. But you know, whatever the case is, if you don't drop music, when you drop, it's underwhelming for most of your fan base. You never do shows, you hardly ever post yourself, and you don't have like a crazy, like the only person I can kind of think who moves like that is Frank Ocean. You know what I mean? And he's Frank Ocean. Weiland isn't that. So I think there's just a lot of work he needs to do. But yeah, other than that, not really much I have to say. Anyways, let me know what you think, and peace. Bye.